Great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mayor Lisa Wong. We are here in the city of Fitchburg at approximately 4:15 on the afternoon of December 17th, 2008. A state of emergency is still in effect for the ice storm of 12/12 and will remain in effect until further notice. The city now has approximately 65% of power restored as of 11:30 a.m. this morning, and we are working with Unitil, who has estimated that the primary circuits will be online by Thursday evening. We have a representative from Unitil, George Gantz, who will talk further about that. This does not mean that the situation is over. It is obvious that the people of Fitchburg are patient, resourceful, and helpful. We need your continued patience and your full cooperation as citizens and agencies throughout the city and the state. This is an extremely difficult situation for the individuals who are without heat and power. With an upcoming snow event expected this Friday, citizens need to be prepared to seek food, shelter, and to stay off the roadways unless absolutely necessary. The City of Fitchburg continues to engage its full resources behind this recovery, but the bottom line is that we need more resources, and we need them now. We have put in requests to the state to retain and add personnel to assist with road clearance and shelters. According to the numbers received by MEMA, which stands for the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, as to the total number of individuals in shelters, approximately 15% of the total people in shelters and without power in Massachusetts are right here in Fitchburg. With 260 communities that reported that they were hit by the storm, the ice storm of 12/12, Fitchburg is still disproportionately hit. With 244 miles of roadway and being one of the hilliest communities in the state, Fitchburg arguably has one of the most challenging terrains. In addition, Fitchburg will be hit hard by snow as we are located in a snow belt. We ask residents to get information via a number of resources. We have put up a map on our website at www.ci.fitchburg.ma.us. This is a map compiled by our IT department of official reports from Unitil of streets that have been energized. Now, this does not mean that your power has been restored. If your power has been restored to your street, it may not mean that your power has been restored to your home. You may have storm damage to your home, and for those who have storm damage to their homes, they need to do a few things. They need, especially if that electricity has been ripped off their homes, you need to contact an electrician who will fix that part that is attached to your house, and you also need to make sure that your home is logged into Unitil's system. You can find out more information on their website, unitil.com. You can also be very patient. Call their hotline number at 888-301-7700. Make sure that there's a work order in. But you can look at the map to see what streets have been energized or not. If your street is blue, and we will try and put the latest information up there as we receive it, and your power is not onto your home, then there might be a problem with your home service. If your street is not highlighted as blue on the map, then it's possible that that service has not been restored to your street. And hopefully that will answer your question, and you can continue to check back to the website, or that map is also printed out, and it's going to be at the Fitchburg Senior Center at one of our shelters. A few things I want residents to be aware of. The first is that please use caution when disposing of debris. Because there is an upcoming snowstorm, we ask residents to stay off the roads and to stack their debris neatly by the road, not on the road. We want to make sure that there's plenty of clearance for our DPW workers in clearing the road of snow. We're also letting residents know that they can drop off wood debris at the city's landfill off of Princeton Road. That's Route 31, during their normal hours of operation. And those hours are 7:30 to 1 to 3 p.m., Monday through Friday, and 7:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday. We have heard that Waste Management, where accessible, is picking up trash according to their normal pickup schedule. And residents can contact the Board of Health if Waste Management has not picked up their trash, and that number is 978-345-9582. There is also a parking ban in place and will be in place until further notice. Lastly, food and shelter are available at the Senior Center. That's 14 Wallace Avenue. We want to make sure that families know that we are accepting families with pets. We're working with a nonprofit who is taking care of those pets nearby in a room at the library. And we ask volunteers who want to help with the shelters to either come to the senior center, or you can call the senior center at 978-345-9598. Before I turn this over to George Gantz from Unitil, I just want to remind people of our non-emergency hotline. Obviously, if it's an emergency, we ask you to call 911, but in case of non-emergency, you can call our hotline number at 978-343-4801. That is the city's hotline number. This is not a number to call for power outages. We ask you to look at the map and also to refer to Unitil. George?
Mike Mouse did this the other day. There we go. All right. Thank you, Mayor Wong. First, a few notes about progress to date in dealing with the electrical outages. When this event began on Thursday evening, 100% of our customers in Massachusetts, including Fitchburg, were out of service. When the transmission system was brought back into service, energizing our Flag Pond transmission station, that improved the results to 85%. 85% of our customers were still out of service. Over the next couple of days, as we were able to bring the sub-transmission system back into operation and energize our substations, our overall system outages dropped from 85% to 65%. That essentially means that 65% of all the primary circuits on the system had been damaged in the storm and were out of service. Since that point in time, we've been working on the primary circuit restoration. This takes the restoration from the substation source all the way out through the various streets, out into the communities, out to the points of interconnection with customers, all the way out to the end of our system. It's a very long and laborious process. We are well underway, and we are still estimating that we will have all primary circuits restored by the end of the evening tomorrow, Thursday. When that work is done, we have a rough estimate that we will then have achieved a 95% restoration of service. Perhaps 1,000 individual accounts will still be affected with outages because of the service line, the local wire in that particular area still needing work, those individual accounts needing work. In this entire process, I want to say we have had great cooperation from the city with the Department of Public Works, Police, and Fire. It's been an outstanding community effort to make sure that the public is safe. A few notes about our crew complements. These are the utility and line crews that have been deployed in this process. From the very early part of the storm, early Friday morning, we deployed all of the available crews in our system, and we also made requests for mutual aid from utilities around New England. No crews were available from New England. All those crews essentially were deployed to the utilities that needed them. The request for mutual aid then went out further and further geographically to find crews that would be available. We have acquired every crew we could possibly find, and we have deployed those crews as they arrived. The very first mutual aid crews we were able to receive came from Philadelphia. They were deployed here in Fitchburg. We've also received crews from Ohio and as far away as Tennessee. We have 64 line and tree crews operating in our Fitchburg service territory, most of which is the city of Fitchburg itself, but it also includes Lunenburg, Townsend, and Ashby. We have 6 more crews on the way this afternoon that we're redeploying from New Hampshire. We continue to have unfilled open requests for mutual aid crews from other utilities. We've had outstanding requests out there all week. We have acquired every crew we could find, and we've deployed every crew we could find. I Do have to report that we've had, occasionally, we've had customers accost crews in the field. I'm happy to say these are isolated incidents. On the whole, the community is treating these crews very well and very respectfully, but I do ask people to realize that these people are working very, very hard to restore electric service, and they deserve our kudos and our thanks. I can also say that we have adequate materials and supplies for the repair efforts. That has not been a constraint. We have adequate logistical support in terms of housing and food. Also, I want to indicate that cost is not and has not been a factor. We will do whatever we have to do as quickly as we can to restore service to customers. For our customers, we know this is an extraordinarily difficult experience. We know that information is one of the most important things that we can provide. We have provided regular postings of information on our website. We realize that's not helpful if people don't have internet access. We've provided that same information through our phone system, with messaging on our phone system, and to the consumer reps that answer the phone. Our phone number, as the mayor said, is 888-301-7700. That number and our trunk lines in New Hampshire are getting a tremendous amount of traffic, so we understand people need to be patient. They may need to try that number several times. They may get strange messages when the trunk lines are full, but that's the number to use, and we just ask people to be patient in trying to reach us. In addition, the city information that the mayor alluded to is very valuable, and we appreciate you helping to get that information out. I do want to reemphasize what the mayor has said all week, that safety is our most important consideration. And in that regard, this may be, a time as we energize primary circuits that some of those secondaries, some of those service lines that may have been lying on the ground for a week, they may become energized. So we want to reinforce with people that any line that is on the ground or that is hanging must be treated as if it were a live line. The exception is if our crews have detached a line from the street, it's no longer attached to the street. In most cases, they and the DPW crews have been coiling those up and putting them with tape and then throwing them off to the side. That's debris. But any other line that appears to still be connected has to be treated as a live line. If you see arcing or what you consider as a serious situation, you can call the police, and they will engage our dispatch, and we'll take a look at it. I do have to say, if we get those calls, our priority will be to cut the line and disconnect it, make sure that it's safe. Safety is our #1 priority. For those who are still out of service, if your neighborhood comes back, that's going to be a common occurrence where your service is out, the neighborhood is back. Please check the wiring attached to your house. Make sure that's secure, that the line is ready to go when we come out there. We are collecting a list of all of the services that are going to need work. And we will have a disciplined effort to go out as we have crews available and begin restoring the services that are down. But the individual home needs to be ready to accept that. That means their premises needs to be repaired. So that's my update.
Thank you very much for recognizing that I'm not as tall as George Gantz. Thank you. Want to reiterate what Mr. Gantz just said, and something that we've been saying all along, which is protection of life is our first priority. The City of Fitchburg has been focused on providing warm and safe places, shelters for people to go to. Again, our main shelter is at the Senior Center. That's at 14 Walls Avenue. We also have been very busy in terms of road clearance. That is the second prong of the strategy. And of course, the third prong is power restoration. So again, we ask for people's patience and their full cooperation in our effort to achieve all three goals. And we'll now take any questions that you may have.
Mayor, you mentioned that the city is in need of additional resources. What specific resources are you looking for from the state and federal government?
Yeah, well, again, the three-pronged strategy is warm and safe places for people to go. That's protection of life. The second is road clearance, and the third is power restoration. So from the city, we have requested resources for the first two, which is our primary responsibility. We are looking for people to help volunteer, keep our shelters open, make sure that there's a right to expertise and complement of expertise, whether it's food services, whether it's security, whether it's registration, and whether it's materials for those shelters. The second is road clearance, and that is where we are looking for equipment and personnel. And the equipment might be chippers, they might be chainsaws, might be box trucks, and certainly the manpower to man those, as well as people who are on the street dragging debris, making sure that the debris is off the road. The power company, who is dealing with power restoration, Mr. Gantz has said, has been focusing on the requests of mutual aid and any assistance from other power companies.
Any updates on how much this storm is going to be costing the city?
Right now, because we're still in the middle of this situation, the ice storm is leading into a snowstorm as of this Friday. Those numbers are going to be rapidly changing. My estimates, just looking at our budget from last year, as of last December 31st, 2007, the city had spent approximately $681,000, and my understanding is that we are under that as of this date.
Are the shelters at the schools still being used at this point?
Right now, we have one primary shelter for habitation that allows us to consolidate all our resources into one. But the other shelters are prepared and they're ready to go if needed. We did see a drop in population. The weather did warm up a little bit. Significantly more people got their power back on. So we've seen that number reduce from a peak of a little over 300 to about 110 last night. And we'll continue to keep an eye on the numbers each night and open up other shelters as needed.
Sure. You mentioned the pet shelter at the senior center. How was that location decided as being the location for the pet shelter?
The senior center, we're accepting families there because we have a location at the library, which happens to be right across the street from the senior center. We understand it's very difficult for families to be separated from their pets, and we wanted to make sure that pets were as near as possible to where their owners would be staying. And looking at all our shelter locations, it was determined that the library, one of the enclosed rooms in there, was an ideal location because it was nearby, because it was a room that could be cornered off. And it was also a public building that we would have access to. And that's why we decided that would be the location for pets.
Right. I guess some people were concerned about pets being in the public library and smells and noises that go along with that.
Yeah. And that's why it's sufficiently away from the shelter itself, such that any noises coming from the animals would not disturb anybody who was sleeping. But it's also, there's an enclosed room within the library, so that all the operations can be confined to that area and controlled much more easily.
Sure. I have a couple questions for Mr. Gantz, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Mr. Gantz, you mentioned about the crews that have come in here. Any idea how long you're going to have those crews from out of town?
We will not release any crews until we reach the point where the amount of work we have left to do is such that we can't use those crews usefully. And we will add more crews if we can to get the job done. Basically our commitment is to keep adequate resources in place 24 hours a day until every customer is restored.
Right. You mentioned the Thursday night target for getting the main circuits back. What is that going to mean at the end of Thursday night? Where do you expect the status to be on Thursday night?
Well, as I said, the estimate is when we've restored those primary circuits, we should be at a 95% restoration level, with about 5% of the customers still out because of individual service problems. I should also mention that estimate of Thursday night is for the city of Fitchburg. We think Townsend and Lunenburg, it's going to be Friday night. And in the town of Ashby, the restoration of primary circuits will require us to work into the weekend. The amount of time it's going to take for the individual services will vary, but we will keep crews active until all of those are addressed. Nobody's going to be redeployed elsewhere until the job is done. Let's see, there was another factor I wanted to mention. The snowfall today, the weather has not hampered our operations. The crews that we have are work in these kinds of conditions, so they know how to work in these kinds of conditions, and they've been progressing well. And the same will happen with the snowstorm coming on Friday. We know it's a very, very significant challenge for the city in terms of the street clearing and the issues associated with that. But our crews will continue to work. For the most part, our trucks will still be able to get around and will continue to work, although it will complicate the restoration.
Right. I talked to one resident today who didn't have a power line going from the street to their house. Is that a Unitil responsibility or is that a customer's responsibility?
If there's no line, then we have the responsibility of providing the electric cable from the street to the weatherhead on the customer's premises.
Okay.
But they're going to need to talk to an electrician about the material that may have been ripped off of their house in the process.
Right. So again, the customer's responsibility is the weatherhead?
Yeah, if it's attached to the house,
okay,
and it's the customer's responsibility.
Okay.
But from that point out to the street is our responsibility, and that's what our crews will do.
I understand. Okay, thanks.
Hi, Anna Griffin with the Telegram Gazette. I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Actually, for the mayor, sorry. Mayor Wong, when you said that you were seeking additional equipment and personnel, does this mean that are you waiting for the state or federal government to provide you with funding and then you're going out to hire these people? Is the city stepping up and hiring private contractors? Are you looking for other municipalities? How exactly are you going to handle that piece of this?
Well, the reimbursement piece comes later. And the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, their counterpart on the federal level, if and when it is declared a federal disaster, which it has not yet, that's done community by community, those are the appropriate agencies to go through. So we have MEMA representation. I think the MEMA office is out of Agawam, and there are MEMA representatives that come out here to assist us in making sure that forms are filled out and are really the go-between. So any requests that we make for resources outside of the city go through MEMA. So if we, for example, are requesting Red Cross, National Guard, Mass Highway Services, that all goes through MEMA, and that's how it's accounted for. So just like Unitil, we have requests out there that are outstanding and are waiting for responses.
Do you think it would be helpful to, obviously understanding the financial crunch that every community is facing, to sort of bite the bullet, so to speak, and try to get some private contractors in here to help you with this enormous effort, and then hopefully, the gods will shine on you and the federal government may come forward with some reimbursement money just to get people back, because obviously by your own figures, the city's in dire straits. So is there anything that can be done to sort of
Yes.
get the process moving along?
Yes, and we are doing that. We have a procurement process that is done well before the winter season, in which a number of private contractors are qualified, and that's what is the key. They have to be qualified, they have to be on our list, they have to provide us with insurances, and they know that they set hourly rates for various things, whether it's plowing, sanding, brush clearing, a number of the different things. So we have private contractors that are already all set, basically a menu of them, and we call for all of them to come in. And as they come in, There's a process in which they sign up, they're given assignments, their hours are kept, so that happens no matter what, and that is being done for the ice storm, that's being done for the recovery, that will be done for the snowstorm coming up. So that's already in place. But for a significant event like this, that's not enough. So typically, we have resources such as the one that you mentioned that are adequate for even a very bad snowstorm. But this is much more than that. And this is requiring the sheltering capability, this is requiring the security, this is requiring food, outreach, this is requiring things that are throughout the city. So for those additional resources, we are looking for, that we go through MEMA. And that's what happens when we declare a local state of emergency. It allows the city to have more flexibility in terms of the regular procurement. We can do it much more quicker. And then a state declaration of emergency allows us to then fully access the state resources.
The list of cities that, the list of streets actually that have been restored, is there any way that people can figure out when power will be coming to their street? This is, we're getting a lot of telephone calls at our offices where people are saying, I live on Blossom Street, I live on Wall Street, when possibly could I be getting, I'm sure other media outlets have heard stories of people who are renting generators at like $250 a day, and they're strapped for cash as well. When, is there a way of figuring out when power will be coming to a certain section of the city?
The short answer is no. There's no easy way to do that. If we request information from the operating logistical team, they then have to take the time to, query crews, so we cannot address individual requests on that basis. However, the system that the mayor has put in place in terms of tracking and mapping with the city GIS system has been incredibly helpful, and that information being posted on the city website, and I know that's being put up at the shelters so that people have that information available, is really, really very helpful, and that's the best source of information. We're providing the street data on street activation, circuit activation to the city on a real-time basis. That information is being updated on a regular basis, and and will be available. So that's the best resource for that detailed information about the status of a particular street. And again, the process that we're going through is going to, we believe, achieve activation of all primary circuits in an appropriate and safe manner by the end of the evening tomorrow. It won't answer the question for particular people about, what do they do for tonight. So I think judgment would say the more damaged your neighborhood was, the further out from the center you are, the farther away you are from areas that now have power, those are the areas that are more likely to take the extra time. So people should try and plan accordingly.
If I could just add to that, and one way that the press could help, and probably to help themselves, is whenever you're publishing data, is to look at the latest map that is on the city's website, and to be able to download that and put that in print. That will be a significant resource for people, letting them know that they can go to the senior center, or they can go online for the absolute latest one. I think people can see things very easily geographically. They can look in certain areas and see what is happening.
When people do get the service of the line to their house, generally there's an inspection that takes place. Has the city's wiring department come up with I know some communities are taking applications over the phone, and then later on the inspector will come out and make sure that the service is hooked up properly. What's Fitchburg doing with regard to that? Are you waiting
Exactly what you said. We're taking things verbally, and then we'll follow afterwards with all the hard copy.
And those are instructions going out to our crews as well. Nobody's going to be fussing over building permits or as long as it's clear that it's in operable condition, the crews will restore service.
So again, you're looking for state and federal resources regarding equipment, personnel, and funding?
Correct, yep. The state and personnel come first. The reimbursement forms are a whole nother process. All right, well, we ask people to keep warm and safe, and please seek shelter. Please call our hotline number, 978-343-4801, for more information.